Welcome back. It's 4:05 p.m. in the city of Bangkok, and let's move on to our next topic, which is co-hosted by Economic and Trade Mission, Embassy of Israel in Bangkok, and Climasale, on the topic of what are the pivotal concern of Agtech and Foodtech businesses in climate change and water management to survive the changing environment and future disruption. We're very pleased to have the Senior Vice President and Managing Director, APAC, Climasale of Israel, joining us, Mr. Nadav Aitak, and also our moderator for the session, Mr. Dagan Aloni, Economic Counselor and Head of Economic and Trade Mission, Embassy of Israel. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Happy to be here.
So I'm going to hand over the screen to you.
Monica, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. And thank you for joining our session today. In the scope of feeding the world, we will try to touch base about the scarcity of water and resources for agriculture and the food industry, and the unique challenges of the climate changes. Are there any solutions or best practices? We will try to be as useful to you as listeners as possible. First of all, I would like to thank the great team in NIA and Startup Thailand for inviting us today and for this great event. We appreciate it very much. I'll maybe start with a quick introduction. My name is Dagan Aloni. I'm the Israeli Economic Counselor to Thailand. I live here in Bangkok, and my office mission is to try to strengthen the collaboration between Israel and Thailand. We believe that it's not easy to locate partners and technologies that are both relevant to your company and they are trustworthy, especially when Israel and Thailand are 8,000 kilometers from one another. So we try to help mainly the private sector on finding the next business partners from Israel and Thai side and great technologies. So when it comes to innovation and startup, I think we can say that Israel has a unique role in the world ecosystem. The center of Israel is the most condensed tech hub in the world, with more than 8,000 startups in a very small country. Israel is usually ranked #1 in the world in startup per capita, and last year we had 140 exits in a total value of $22 billion. But all of these are just numbers. Actually, it's quite boring and this less interesting. More interesting is why. If we try to talk a bit about the basic of our innovation, the main one is simple: we have to. Our challenges, our country's challenges, force us to innovate in order to improve. If you look at the clearest example, water. Half of Israel is a desert. Since our establishment 70 years ago, Israel has been in a state of water shortage. This is of course bad for agriculture sector, but it's more than that. Israel is actually, it's a threat to our country prosperity. So we had to innovate, we had to prosper. So today there is no water shortage status in Israel. And why? Because we reclaim close to 90% of our water. And if you open the tap in your house, water from desalination factories comes out. So, and in my belief, this is one of the synergies between Israel and Thailand. We share these challenges, both our countries. Thailand is suffering from a drought for a long time now, which put a lot of pressure both on the farmers and on the one hand, and on the other hand, the decision makers of this country. This is why we are happy to work with several Thai organizations to promote desalination procedures, water recycling, purification. But the challenges around us are never standing still. And just like our world, it's always evolving. One of the reasons for the drought is the climate change. Everybody suffers from the climate change. Every year, our weather is becoming less and less predictable. We have drought on one hand and floods on the other hand. Now, the climate change brings about many challenges. Two major challenges, for example, that we can relate to today's topic is, for example, how can a farmer in Thailand manage his business when he has to consider fluctuation in his crop? The crop prediction in Thailand is very difficult. It's actually one of the most countries to predict your crop prediction. You have no rain or too much rain. So the farmer who needs to provide for his family needs to prepare. Should he irrigate? Should he harvest? What should he do exactly? So this is one challenge. If I can think of one more challenge, for example, is when it comes to water management. How can the regulators of Thailand set rules for farmers And for other industries, the manufacturers, for example, for quotas of water use. How can you tell, say, an industry you should use X cubic meters when you don't predict the weather? It's very, very difficult because the climate change changes the way we have to look at planning for the future. So all of these are challenges, and that is why I am very happy to host today Mr. Nadav Itach, which is the Senior Vice President of an Israeli startup named Climacell, which weather is more or less their natural playground, if we might say. And I'm very happy, Nadav, that you can come here and share the experience, the accumulated experience of Climacell. So first of all, thank you for joining. Let's start with that. And of course, I will let you explain about the company and about the technology and what good that Climacell bring to the world, let's say. But I want to start with a question with your, how does climate change, generally speaking, impacts people, impacts organization around the world? And what are the main challenges for the industries, in not only the agriculture, but several industries that climate change now and in the future holds for us?
Great. Thank you very much, Dagan, and thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here, and good afternoon for everybody and all the listeners. A quick introduction to myself. So, as Dagan said, my name is Nadav Itach, and I'm the Managing Director for Asia Pacific for Climacell. I'm based out of Singapore, where our headquarters for Asia is based out of. Originally, I'm from Israel, and I spent the last decade in Asia, working in different businesses, especially in technology, early stage company, and helping those companies to grow across the region. I'm very excited to be here. The topic of that session is it's a very relevant topic, very interesting, very close to my heart, and it's a huge topic to discuss. I'm almost positive that we will not be able to close all the aspect of that topic in 20 minutes discussion. But thank you again, Dagan, for the opening, and I think you covered some of the key points there. And climate change definitely is something that we are seeing everywhere, and it's make the weather more extreme and mainly unpredictable. And this is impacting basically any industries that you can think of, and we are specifically in Climacell believe that weather impact everybody. And actually, weather do impact about 75% of the businesses across the world, and farming, agriculture is obviously one of those industries that impacted by weather. I prepared a few slides just to, to help us guide us through the discussion. We obviously can deviate as we go more and more into the discussion, but just to help with some of the visualization of what we are discussing today. I will just start with a really quick introduction about Climacell, and we touch in more details about our specific technology and solution. But in essence, Climacell, it's a global weather technology company. We are use all kind of innovative and unique approach to predict, and most importantly, to deliver weather and weather insight to the end user, that could be any community, any organization, and in general, people that out there. So our mission is really to help people, community, and organization to manage their weather-related challenges globally. So as I just said, about 70% of the business and communities are impacted by weather. And one of the main challenges is that 85% of the globe that do not have access to actionable and reliable weather, real-time and focused weather data. Now, the number one frustration for user of a weather product or organization, or in that case, a farmer, is that the weather data that is consuming or is getting is not really actionable. Like you said, again, you want to know Do I need to irrigate my field? Should I crop my field this week, next week, or last week? And obviously, those kind of decisions could be very crucial to many industries, including agriculture. On top of that, if you look on weather as a product, weather it's a pretty complex product. And most of the organization, most of the companies, and people in general, 90% of them do not really know how to read this information and what the weather mean for them. Like what kind of action I can take on a specific weather parameter, humidity level, wind, precipitation, and so on and so forth. And this is creating another challenge in the industry. And we see as an industry that weather becoming a more and more top concerns to leaders, both commercial leaders, CEOs, but also governments, because the lack of ability to predict it in an efficient way. So just to touch one more thing before we move to the next question, but I think one more challenge that we see in the world is that there are obviously a gap in the world between developed countries and developing countries. So we say the same weather, different impact. You can see that a flood that's happening in the United States and the equivalent flood that's happening in a country, let's say like in Asia, like India, or there are many of other examples, will have a totally different impact in terms of number of casualties, loss of property, and so on and so forth. So this actually means that there is an ability to provide a better weather information and weather data and to take actions on time in order to prevent all those losses. And there is some kind of a basic system problem here that in terms of the amount of budgets that developed countries will invest in weather infrastructure as opposed to developing countries. And you can see, for example, if we look on the US and Europe, the amount of budgets that those countries putting on weather infrastructure is in the billions, while a country like India will have a much smaller budget for that same infrastructure. So there is a clear gap between the have and the have not. And this is one of the solutions that ClimateCells provide, and I will talk in more details on that during our session. But the world today is changed. There are technologies and way to create a solution that is less reliant on hardware infrastructure and more reliant on data, on models, on acquiring of unique and novel data sets of data that allow us to solve this problem and provide good data and good weather insights to people all around the world, including farmers and agriculture companies.
I think that you're right. I think that one of the initial steps is actually to understand what does weather prediction can do for the industries, to understand the relevant use case, because everybody immediately think that, okay, if I know that my field will be flood, the use case here is very clear. But what does it mean for a municipality, for manufacturers, etc.? So I do agree with you that one of the first steps is to actually understand the use case and the knowledge of weather. But let's drill down a bit. So we understand the challenges for what you say, but how can we use technology here? I understand that you are speaking, actually, it's the world data revolution enters the weather industry. So what are some of the solutions and technology that could be used to implemented in order for us to deal better with the weather-related challenges? Because we are talking here about the climate change challenges. So how can we harness technology we already know and have in other fields into the world of weather?
This is a good it's a good point, and yeah, and I think we all agree that we see a more and more intense and frequent weather events. So weather events could be anything from, let's say, this is a picture from a cyclone Amphan that just happened in March in India. It was one of the most severe recorded cyclone in the history of the Bay of Bengal. All of that happening, during a pandemic, global pandemic, when you have hundreds of millions of people that sits in home. We see more and more fire events across California, Australia, and other locations in the world. And there is also some impact on events like what we see now in Africa and in India of the locust, something that we didn't see for the last 75 years. All of a sudden, you see a swell of locusts going through the whole continent of Africa, moving into Iran and India. And this is all related to climate change and the changes in the weather pattern. So specifically for locusts, those swarm of locusts are very much relying on rainfall and wind direction. So I think you also covered a little bit about the drought and the floods, but obviously that kind of events will impact agriculture and will cause damage of tens of billions worth of crops every year. And we see more and more of that. And obviously floods and drought are basically the two sides of the same coin. And if that go to one extreme, the other go also to the same extreme. So if I need to talk a little bit about the technology, I think it's a good opportunity to introduce our journey as a company and how we went about to solve that problem in the industry. So Climacell, it's a relatively young company. We been established in 2016, and we're a global company. We have our offices in Boston, where the founder met during their MBA and founded the company, and then from there we expanded to Tel Aviv and Asia Pacific. But when the company founded and we looked on the problem of the weather industry, we actually saw that the weathering, one of the gaps is that the cost of the infrastructure in order to create a weather platform or a weather infrastructure in specific geography around the world. And our line of thinking was that if you think about it today, the world is full with sensors, and you have everything that senses the environment can also provide information that can help us to understand better the weather patterns. So vehicles, for example, today, vehicles are basically computers on wheels. They sense a lot of different parameters in the environment, from rain, from temperature, from fog, etc. It's an information that you can use. Planes, drones, even to some extent, cellular towers and the waves that go between one cellular tower to another can be used as a data point to enrich and create more coverage of observation of weather around the world. So we really focus on building our platform in a way that we can consume those kind of data points and translate those to information that we can use in our weather models. From there, we move to develop our micro weather models and engine, which is an in-house models that we are running in the company, which allow us the flexibility to move from one weather to another based on the need, based on the customer need, and based on the use case. You need to remember that today, most of the weather models that you have out there are governmental models. and they are not that flexible for the use cases you mentioned. So the use case of a utility company and the use case of a farmer will be different. And we create that kind of product environment that can allow you to get the right information that you need to solve your business challenge or your weather-related challenge. And then from there, we move to invest and look more on the product and how we translate that data into an actionable insight. So all of those together are actually creating a lot of opportunities, both to approach the weather kind of challenge and technology problem in a manner that it's economically feasible. So the investment deal, it's not in the billions like putting the whole infrastructure in specific countries, and you can access to that data in a cost that it's relatively makes sense, and you can see the return on investment. Yeah. Okay, so Dagan, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think that we also have to consider our time constraints. We have more or less, I think, 5 minutes to wrap everything up. So I think that if you want to talk a bit about the use case or the different industries, could be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So with all what we said now, there is a multi-billion opportunity right now with improving weather for agriculture. And when I say a multi-billion opportunity, if you look on the cost of lost, and both in losing crop and more than that in losing equipment, losing life, losing property, that there is a more than $30 billion opportunity right now to solve. And with the technologies that we have today, we have the ability to approach those problems and solve it in an efficient and an economical way.
When I look at this slide, for example, you can see, correct me if I'm wrong, I can see here agriculture companies, I can see e-commerce company, I can see transportation companies, and this is a very wide range of customers from very different US Open, sport companies, a very different company from one another. So I can only assume that each one of them use the data intelligence and the weather intelligence, maybe for a similar purpose, but for different use cases.
Exactly, you're exactly right. So, weather really impacts everybody. And it's the gap in the industry is that it was not, or it's still not being provided as a product to all of those users in a way that they can translate it and take immediate action that shows them the benefits that they are looking for. And our mission as a company is to build a multi-vertical software as a service platform for all of those users in all of those industries. And the brands that people rely on the most rely on Climacell to provide them the right information in the right place, at the right time to take the right actions. So agriculture is one of those verticals that we are serving as a company, but obviously there are tons of other verticals that use our solution, from energy to aviation to defense, automotive, sport, and so on and so forth.
So this is actually quite fascinating, and I know that this is a worldwide challenge, and I think that all over the world in Thailand can use this kind of technology, especially with even in Thailand, there's so many sensors that can be used in order to solve challenges that relate to climate change. I know that if you and I will deep dive into the climate change world, we can have this discussion for 3 more hours. But this event that we have the specific timing, I think that I think that today it would be very good for us to, if any one of our viewers would be very happy to speak with us or with you in order to understand more about how your approach to such challenges, they would be more than welcome, especially as you are based from Singapore, right? So,
yeah. So, maybe if I can take the next 5 minutes or so before the end of the session to talk a little bit about what's wrong with the weather today and the weather forecast. And I think, as I said, that weather impacting everyone and 95% of the businesses also, and it changes a lot. And most weather information service rely on public data, and there is a lot of technology exists around those services. And organizations today and community lack this single source of weather truth and continue to suffer from that because they cannot take the right decision on time. So the bottom line is that weather forecasts have become insufficient to where we are today. And we just need better solutions, and we need to be able to take a better decision based on the weather information. And this is why ClimateCell built the world-leading weather intelligence platform. And when I say weather intelligence, just to make sure that I illustrate what it means, and it's in that case, let's say I'm taking an example from a railroad operator, which is one of our customers. So the weather forecast today, as you know, it will tell you that there will be high winds on Tuesday across New Mexico. What a weather intelligence platform like what we have in ClimateCell will tell you, it's slow down the train to 10 miles per hour at mile marker 27 on Tuesday at 1:45 p.m. to avoid derailment due to the crosswind that you have in that specific location. And this is a game changer. This is basically boost efficiencies and can make a huge change for a railroad operator like that, and also save a huge amount of cost in case of derailment, which, by the way, just a few weeks ago happened in Scotland. And this is, I'm not talking only about the millions of dollars that this will cost. It's also a cost of, people lives and injuries, etc. So this is a huge difference between what you have today and what we want to provide. In the world of...
We're getting signal here that, wow, with so much to talk about, but so little time. So visually, we can say that the difference is between not only to generalize and make the weather specific, but also to give us specific business and conclusion about what to do with the new information that the data gathered. This is the essence of weather intelligence and the way data fights climate change. So first of all, I want to very much thank you, Nadav, for your time. This is super interesting, and the list of your investors even show that, that decided to give their confidence in you. I very much encourage anyone who's currently listening to contact Nadav in the email that you have, or contact us in Bangkok through the economic mission here for anything further needed. We want to thank everyone for joining and listening to us, and thank you, Nadav. And again, thank you for the National Innovation Agency. And everybody have a great Songkran and a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Kabul Maka. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Nadav.
ขอบคุณมากค่ะเอาละค่ะก็ได้ฟังเรื่องราวที่น่าสนใจนะคะตัวอย่างจากทางประเทศอิสราเอลแล้วก็ระบบนิเวศทางนวัตกรรมในอุตสาหกรรมอาหารและการเกษตรนะคะก็อาจจะเอาบางอย่างมาปรับใช้ในบ้านเราก็เป็นได้นะคะเดี๋ยวช่วงนี้พักกันสักครู่นะคะช่วงหน้ายังคงเป็นเรื่องของ Agtech Foodtech จะเป็นอะไรกันนั้นนะคะเดี๋ยวกลับมาติดตามกันค่ะสักครู่เดียวค่ะ